Welcome back to the channel, guys. Another kind of rainy, cool day outside, so had to do a video inside. I'm in my last week here in Nairobi before I head on home. And so I want to start to transition back into my Southeast Asia content, and that is what we are doing today. And today I want to talk about what most expats really waste their money on. In fact, we'll narrow it down to 7 things that I believe expats waste the most money on when living out in Southeast Asia. This really could even apply for places like Nairobi or other places also. But the crazy part is I was doing some of these too, and you move here to Southeast Asia and you think you're going to save a lot of money, but sometimes your spending stays the same, or sometimes it even goes up. So again, in this video, I'm going to break down these 7 ways expats waste money out here in Southeast Asia, and more importantly, how to avoid them. Stick around.
I'm tired of waiting here, same 4 walls, same fading year. Got these plans stuck in my head, Southeast Asia calling me instead. Bangkok nights and Bali shores, sick of dreaming on something.
All right, number 1 for me, I think, is overpaying on rent. And I was guilty of that too. You come out with your mindset of thinking in dollars or wherever you're from, and you say, oh, well, compared to Australia, this is a good price, or compared to here, this is a good price. I was paying twice this. But in reality, you're looking at it from your own country's point of view. You need to look at it compared to other rentals in that city or within that country. So a lot of expats, again, they land in places like Bangkok, Manila, Cebu, Vietnam, and go straight for the modern condos in the expat bubbles with the pools, the gyms, the security, and they think they pay way more than they need to. You see a nice unit, everything looks clean, boom, you get the unit, without really kind of exploring. And you just kind of lock it in. But the truth is, if you take your time, you compare and negotiate, you can find usually a very comfortable place for much less, sometimes even in the same building. It's just a matter of looking and spending enough time looking at different units in different parts of the city before you jump into that lease. And I think most people don't. They pick basically the first place that looks good because they just want to get settled into the new country. But the bottom line is you don't need luxury living to live very well in Southeast Asia. So for me, the solution is slow down. What I always do is the same philosophy, the same plan everywhere I go, even like in Nairobi. I'll get a hotel for about 3 nights. I'll kind of explore the areas. And then I'll go into like an Airbnb for maybe a month after I've looked at the area. And then I can say, okay, I do like this area. And then I'll start looking at rentals where I have a lot of time. I've got a whole Airbnb for a whole month. And I slowly look and I compare and look at what the rentals are going for and negotiate against each other. Say, well, hey, in the same building, I'm looking at a studio that's only $15K. And theirs may be $20K. So maybe you say, I'll take it for 15, or I'll take it maybe for 16, or, upgrade my TV, or maybe include the internet, something like that, and negotiate, and you can get a much better deal. I think mistake number 2 is living in an expat bubble. Now, for some people, this might be okay, and for a lot of places that I've lived, I have lived in expat bubbles. But it does add up fast, and you don't get as much for your money when you are living in the expat bubbles. If you're only eating Western food, going to the cafes, going to the restaurants, you're basically going to recreate your life that you had back home. And guess what? You're going to pay close to the same prices that you were back home as well. I see this all the time. Get into that expat bubble and you just go to the places you're comfortable. You're always eating out at restaurants, higher end because they're in the expat bubbles, or you're going to the cafes for morning coffee, you're going to the mall, or instead of going to where maybe the locals actually go, maybe go to the marketplace to buy your fruits and veggies instead of the grocery store, things like that. And People say Southeast Asia is getting more expensive all the time. And of course, there's inflation. Everywhere you're at is eventually going to rise up in cost. But the problem is they're just not living like they're in Southeast Asia. They're still living like they're in their home country. And for example, like in the Philippines, I would go to local marketplaces to get my fruits and my veggies and eggs. And I would go to the grocery store to get other items. Or for example, like when I lived in Bacolod, most of the expats would just do their shopping at the S&R and the Landers. And of course, they're going to pay much more because you're basically still paying the Western prices. In some cases, a lot more because of the import fees. The real savings comes from local food, like in Thailand. You know, you can eat street food. You can eat out much cheaper than you did in the West if you kind of eat where the locals eat. Local services, local lifestyle, and that's where your money stretches. It's not living an exact replica of how you lived in the West. And mistake number 3 is convenience spending, like Grab, transportation. You know, at first Grab feels cheap, like even here with the Uber and the Bolt, which is their version of Grab and Bolt over in Southeast Asia. I was like, well, it's only $1, so it's $2, it's $3, it's $4 here and there and back. And then if you're doing this a couple times per day, and sometimes more, and doing it even on a daily basis, it really can add up quite fast. In Bangkok, I started taking the SkyTrain, and I got myself a Rabbit card, which is you load money on it, and you can go all over the city. So in Bangkok, just using my feet, in the SkyTrain, I really only spend about $50 a month on transportation, which is very cheap. Here, it really added up fast because I'm not taking the public transportation like locals. But, you know, it feels like it's nothing because you look at each individual ride, and you're like $1, $2, and it feels like it's nothing. But then it becomes your default, and nothing becomes something really quick. And sometimes you're spending hundreds per month. In fact, I think I'd have to sit down and kind of add it all up, but I probably spent a couple hundred on transportation per month here in Nairobi. A lot of people do that in Bangkok. They never truly learn the SkyTrain system or the MRT, and they're taking Grab everywhere. Now, if you're like a local, you're going to learn the SkyTrain system. You're going to take the motorbike taxis, and you're going to fit in, and you're going to maybe even take the bus system, and it will be much less expensive for you. I'm not saying don't use the Grab taxis for certain things. Obviously, if you bought groceries, it's a rainy day, it's kind of a long haul, you don't want to be on the back of a motorbike, you'd rather be in the comfort of a car. Of course, yeah, sometimes you do have to take it. Just don't rely on it for everything. Quick tip. If you're living or traveling in Southeast Asia, this is something that I use every day. When you're on public Wi-Fi or trying to access your home content, your data isn't really secure. And that's why a lot of sites get blocked. That's why I use Surfshark VPN. It encrypts your connection, hides your IP, and lets you access content from anywhere. Plus, you can use it on unlimited devices, your phone, your TV, your laptop. It's fast enough for streaming, blocking ads in trackers, and works basically everywhere I go. Anytime I'm on a public Wi-Fi or like on an Airbnb Wi-Fi, I log into my VPN. I've got a link in the description and also the pinned comment. Check it out. Try it risk-free today. Back to the video. Mistake number 4, not knowing local prices. This is something you kind of got to educate yourself on. If you don't know the local price, you're probably overpaying. And that happened here for me, even in Nairobi. I was overpaying on my first haircut. I way overpaid until I asked somebody. I said, "How much are haircuts?" And then I would go in and say, "It's this much, correct?" And they'll say, "Yeah." But if you're not finding out what local prices are, you're going to be overcharged. Markets, services, random purchases. Prices can change depending on who you are. As soon as they see your face, like in the Philippines at the markets, they raise the price. Know the prices before you go in. If you don't ask, compare, and learn. You'll end up paying more than you should. Always get a second opinion. And if you have a girlfriend from that country, better to have her go in and do the shopping for you, or to find out the prices and everything ahead of time if you have to go on your own. Don't ask a local before. I say, how much should I be paying for mangoes? Well, you should be paying this much per kilo. And that's how you got to work it. And mistake number 5 is living short term. Now, this is a big one that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of expats stay in Airbnbs long term. Now, here in Nairobi, I've been in Airbnbs for 3+ months. Now, I'm leaving, so it was okay. But, I've met people here that have been staying in Airbnbs for almost the entire time, because it's easy and it's flexible. But you're paying a premium for that convenience. You can almost always find something cheaper than Airbnb. Or even if you stay in Airbnb and you like it, ask to speak to the landlord privately or meet privately and ask them, hey, how much if I rent this off of Airbnb? Because they're going to save money and you will save money. So it's a win-win for both of you. The longer you stay, the cheaper it should get. That's negotiating power. If you go into a long-term lease, you can negotiate lower, but don't jump into the long-term leases right away. I always say the first 6 months when you move someplace, don't do anything permanent. Don't move a girlfriend in. Don't buy a big possession. Don't sign a long-term lease. But short-term thinking equals long-term expense. And mistake number 6 is lifestyle inflation. This is a trap that gets almost everyone. You move somewhere cheaper, and instead of saving money, you upgrade everything. And honestly, this should be your opportunity to really put away some money, but people don't take that opportunity and do that. They end up, maybe their Social Security is $2,000 per month, and they can live at about $1,200, $1,500. But instead, they go all the way up, and it leaves no room for saving. You get a better place, you get more eating out because you can suddenly, more grab rides, more date nights, because you're thinking, well, it's cheaper than back home. But when you actually look at what you're spending, you're not saving anything. You just got more comfortable spending. And again, this should be an opportunity for a lot of people to pay down their debt and save money. Don't just move everything up. Don't move your spending habits up. Again, this is a problem that usually is carried over from your life before. If you didn't have good spending habits before, even though you're going to save money over here in Southeast Asia, you're going to come here and your bad spending habits are going to continue. So even though your cost of living all of a sudden dropped way down, well, you're going to probably bring that up because you've just learned bad spending habits and you haven't broken free from it. But again, you're not saving anything. You just got more comfortable spending. And mistake number 7 is just not tracking your spending. And this is one that I'm guilty of. I know how much my budget is. Like, I know how much my income is. I know how much I should try to budget around, but I don't really track my spending. I'm just one of those people who just goes into my banking app and I'm like, okay, I got this much left. I should only spend this much more. But I am very good at savings. The first thing I do when income comes in for me, I invest a portion of it into certain things. I'm not going to get into what I invest in because it's not really that type of video, and I'm not a financial advisor, guys. But this is where everything can fall apart for a lot of people. If you're not tracking your money, you have no idea where it's going. Now, luckily, a lot of the banking apps, like my banking, at the end of the month, I can click Analyze Spending, and it breaks down the categories of where I'm spending. So I can see how much I spent on coffee, how much I spent eating out, shopping, and this and that. So a lot of banking apps will do that now, which is pretty nice. But again, if you have no idea where you're spending it, the little things can add up fast. Food, transportation, random spending. What you don't track, you can't really control. Even checking like once a week is better than nothing. And it can completely change your spending habits. So again, I analyze my spending usually at the end of each month on my banking app, and I kind of say, okay, I spent way too much eating out. I need to kind of curtail that this next month. And that's usually what I'll do then on the next month is I'll cut back on eating out, cook maybe more meals at home, things like that. So bottom line, guys, here's the truth. Southeast Asia isn't expensive, but the way you live can certainly make it expensive. If you avoid these mistakes, you can live well, enjoy your life, and actually save money and pay off any debt you've had. And hopefully you're actually better that you're coming out here to live and retire without any debt. It's much better, but you can take the opportunity to get that stuff paid off. Don't ruin your credit because you may need it at some point in your life. But if you don't, you may end up spending just as much as you did back home or more. And for me, I'm actually heading back to Southeast Asia now. So in the next videos, I'll do some cost of living in Bangkok, some tours of different apartments, kind of back to Southeast Asia living. And I do plan on touring around a little bit of more of Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam. But if you've lived in Southeast Asia, traveled, or are moving there, drop a comment and tell me maybe what's one mistake that you have made while living out here in Southeast Asia. And if you're planning on coming, learn this early because it'll save you a lot of money in the end. So I appreciate you guys watching. Again, when you come out here, you need to protect yourself when you get onto Wi-Fi. Surfshark VPN is the best way to do that. Link again is in the description and also the pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.
Got these plans stuck in my head. Southeast Asia calling me instead. Bangkok nights and Bali shores. Sick of dreaming, want something more. Pack your bags, don't hesitate. Gio, let's go before it's too late. Time keeps slipping away from us. Keep living